All right, we got it. I just got a little bit distracted. Vanya! How's it going? How are you doing on this fine evening? James! How is it going? Bobby! Look, I only got a little bit distracted. I I was gonna say, I think I see Grumble's rabbit. Grumble! I booted up Far Cry 6 once I finished work, and then I was just running around wrecking havoc, and it is so easy to just get distracted in that game. You just got back from admission in the hospital. Are you okay? I'm glad to see you're doing all right. At least I'm assuming all right because you're out of the hospital. How is everybody on this fine Friday? GF is a little sick. Well, she will get better. 2 infections? No! Well, I hope they hooked you up with the antibiotics you need. Also, infections are killer, man. I hope you get better soon. Let's just relax with the rest of our communist blood-sucking communist school. Happy and dreading tomorrow. Hopefully you get good news tomorrow, Bobby. Especially because flu season is theoretically around the corner. Okay, our name is Zoe Redbird. We don't have too much left of this. We're at 83%. We are Putin's favorite, the new leader of the party. We replaced Aphrodite because she failed the motherland. We just had Parents' Day at the school, and our step loser John rejected communism totally, so he left. Hashtag stupid capitalists. We see Aphrodite's parents yelling at her for being a disappointment. Aphrodite is not a capitalist like them and has failed at being party leader. Hashtag are you worth anything? Ugh. Hashtag why did I birth a communist? We meet Professor Hottie McSexy Pants, which we're still waiting for him to come back. Lauren Blake in the library. He feels like such a red herring. Because I felt like the way he was introduced, he'd have a bigger part, and he kind of just disappeared. In the library, while planning party changes, he is so hot that we can't think of anything else. Did this ever get like a movie or a TV show? Because this feels like it would have been rife for the picking. Ripe for the picking. How is your message translated? Happy birthday? Which message? Are you doing anything special for your birthday, Bobby? Also, happy birthday. The grumble one. I just see grumble e. Unless you did another one. That one is Grummblee. Oh, how did it translate? I read that weird. I thought you were asking how it translated it, not how on earth, why did it translate it? Okay. It's okay. I got you. It just took me a second to get there. Anyways, he is so hot we can't think of anything else. Hashtag relatable, right? We are pretty sure that he likes us too. Keeps flirting, but also biding time. Probably a baddie, but hashtag don't care he's hot. Our party changes include making the council of our friends to show that we are not corrupt. Hashtag thinking ahead. And everyone is impressed with our party leadership skills. Aphrodite reported Lauren to Putin. He said, shut the frick up. Run into Lauren more outside and in the walk to our dorm. And he is so freaking hot, bro. We forget about our almost boyfriend, Eric. We are also planning to talk to our party talk about our party changes on Sunday ritual. Aphrodite had a vision of our grandma dying, and we bullied her into telling us that we can't tell Putin. Did it not save our changes? I feel like we added stuff here, and it was like we watched a movie. We're gonna have to get to the end of this. We're also complete jerks cheating on Eric already by thinking deeply about our teacher and having Stevie Ray cheer it on. And also, we're thinking of, our Heath. Football boys that we knew disappeared and cops came to talk to us. We claim innocence. We owe Aphrodite a favor whenever she wants. Also, we decided to call in a fake bomb threat. We also decided to go shopping at American Eagle because we couldn't sleep. And hungry after shopping, went to Starbucks and found Heath standing there. We did a ritual. Stevie Ray randomly died. Then we watched a movie and hung out with our friends as we mourned. And then we got talked to by the police because our friend Heath has gone missing and his car was out front, and Putin is sussy. That's pretty much what we're dealing with, even though it didn't save our changes. We resettled in our little group after they left and didn't say much as the room got back to normal. I noticed no one changed the local station. The Star Wars DVD was forgotten, at least for tonight. Are you okay? Eric finally asked softly. He put his arm back around me and I snuggled against him. Yeah, I think so. Did the cops have any news about Heath? Damien asked. Nothing more than what we already heard, I said. Or if they do, they weren't telling us. Is there anything that we can do? Shawnee asked. I shook my head. Let's just watch local TV and see what the 10 o'clock news says. This does not feel like it's in Oklahoma at all. They mumbled okays and everyone settled in to watch Will and Grace rerun marathon while we waited for the news. I stared at the TV and thought about Heath. Did I have a bad feeling about him? Definitely. But was it the same bad feeling that I'd had about Chris Ford and Brad Higgins? No, I didn't think so. I didn't know how to explain it. My gut said that Heath was in danger, but it wasn't saying that he was dead. Yet. The more I thought about Heath, the more restless I became. By the time the late news came on, I could hardly sit through the stories of an unexpected blizzard that had caused a whiteout in Tulsa and the surrounding area. I fidgeted while we watched the shots of downtown and the expressway eerily empty and looking post meteor hit or nuclear warlike. There was nothing new on Heath except a grim report about how the weather had hampered the search efforts. I have to go. The words were out of my mouth and I was standing before my mind could remind me that I didn't have a clue where I was going or how I was going to get there. Go where, Z? Eric asked. My mind flailed around and landed on one thing, one little island of contentment in a world that had turned into stress and confusion and madness. I'm going to the stables. Eric's look was a blank at everyone else as everyone else's. Lenobia said that I could brush Persephone anytime I wanted to. I moved my shoulders. Brushing her makes me feel calm, and right now I could use some calm. Well, okay. I like bears. Let's go groom Persephone, Eric said. I need to be alone. The words sounded much harsher than I'd meant for them to as I sat back down next to him and slid my hand in his. I'm sorry, it's just that I need time to think, and that's something that I have to do alone. His blue eyes looked sad, but he gave me a little smile. How about I walk you to the stable and then come back here and keep an eye on the news for you till you get through thinking? I'd like that. I hated the worried looks on my friends' faces, but I couldn't do much to reassure them. Eric and I didn't bother with coats. The stable wasn't far. The cold wouldn't get a chance to bother us. "This snow is awesome," Eric said after we walked a little way down the sidewalk. Someone had attempted to plow it because it was way less deep in the sidewalk than the surrounding grounds, but the snow was coming down so steadily that the plows couldn't keep up with it, and it was already up to mid-calf on us. I kinda remember it snowing like this when I was 6 or 7. It was during Christmas break, and it sucked that we didn't miss any school. Eric grunted a vague, guy like response, and then we walked in on silence. Usually our silences weren't awkward, but this one felt weird. I didn't know what to say, how to make it better. Eric cleared his throat. You still care about him, don't you? I mean, as more than just an ex boyfriend. Yes, Eric deserved the truth, and I was totally sick of lies. We'd come to the stable door and stopped in a halo of yellow gaslight. The entryway shielded us from the worst of the snow, so it seemed like we were standing in a bubble inside of the snow globe. And what about me? Eric asked. I looked up at him. I care about you too, Eric. I wish that I could fix this, make all of the bad stuff go away, but I can't. And I'm not going to lie to you about Heath. I think I've imprinted him. I saw the surprise in Eric's eyes. From just that one time on the wall? Z, I was there, and you hardly tasted any of the blood at all. He just doesn't want to lose you, and that's why he's so obsessed. Not that I blame him, he added with a wry smile. I saw him again. Huh? It was just a couple of days ago. I couldn't sleep, so I went to Starbucks at Utica Square by myself. He was there putting up posters about Brad, and I hadn't meant to see him, and if I'd known that he was going to be there, I wouldn't have gone. I promise you that, Eric. But you did see him. I nodded. And you fed from him? It it kinda just happened. I tried not to, but he cut himself on purpose, and I couldn't stop myself. I kept my gaze squarely on his, asking him with my eyes to understand. Now that I was actually confronted with the very likely possibility that Eric and I were going to break up, I realized how much I didn't want that to happen, which definitely didn't help my confusion or my stress level because I did really care about Heath. I'm sorry, Eric. I didn't ask for it to happen, but it did, and now there's this thing between Heath and me, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it. He sighed deeply and brushed some snow off his hair. Okay, well, there's a thing between you and me, too, and someday, if we make it through this damn change, we'll be alike. I won't turn into a wrinkled old man and die decades before you will. Being with me won't be something other communists will whisper about and humans will hate you for. It'll be normal. It'll be right. Then his hand was behind my neck and he was pulling me to him. He kissed me hard. He tasted cold and sweet. My arms went up around his shoulders and I kissed him back. At first, I just wanted to make the hurt that I was causing him go away. Then our kiss deepened and we pressed our bodies together. I wasn't overwhelmed with the blinding bloodlust for him like what happened when I was with Heath, but I liked the way kissing Eric made me feel, all kinds of warm and lightheaded. Well, the bottom line was that I liked him a lot. Plus, he had a point. He and I would be right together. Heath and I would not. The kiss ended with both of us breathing hard. I cupped Eric's cheek in my hand. I really am sorry. Eric turned his head and kissed my palm. We'll figure this out. I hope so. I whispered more to myself than him. Then I stepped away from him and put my hand on the iron doorknob. Thanks for walking me here. I don't know when I'll be back. You shouldn't wait for me. I started to open the door. Z, if you really did imprint with Heath, you might be able to find him, Eric said. I paused and turned back to Eric. He looked strained and unhappy, but he didn't hesitate to explain. While you're brushing the mare, think about Heath. While you're brushing the bear, think about Heath. Call to him. If he's able to, he'll come to you. If he's not, and your imprint is strong enough, you may be able to get an idea of where he is. Thank you, Eric. He smiled, but he didn't look happy. Later, Z. He walked away, and the snow swallowed him. The warm hay smelled mixed with clean, dry, bare, contrasted dramatically with the cold, snowy outside. The stables were dimly lit by only a couple of soft gaslights. The bears were making sleeping, chewing noises. Some of them were blowing through their noses, which sounded a little like snoring. I looked around for Lenobia while I brushed the snow from my shirt and hair and started toward the tack room, but it was pretty obvious that except for the bears, I was alone. Good. I needed to think and not explain what I was doing here in the middle of a snowstorm in the middle of the night. But isn't it basically like the middle of the day when it's the middle of the night for the communists? Okay, I told Eric the truth about Heath, and he hadn't broken up with me. Of course, depending on what happened with Heath, he still might dump me. How did those hoish girls go out with the dozens or so guys at the same time? Two was exhausting. Memory of Lauren's sexy smile and incredible voice flashed through my guilt-filled mind. I chewed my lip as I grabbed a curry brush and a mane comb. Actually, I'd been sort of seeing three guys, which was utterly insane. I decided then and there that I had enough problems without adding a weird flirting that may or may not be going on between Lauren and me into the mix. Just thinking about Eric finding out that I'd shown all of that skin to Lauren, I shuddered. It made me want to dump myself. Well, maybe she should. Like, none of these guys deserve this from her. From now on, I'd avoid Lauren, and if I couldn't avoid him, I'd treat him like any other teacher, which meant no flirting. Now, if I could just figure out what to do with Eric and Heath. Right? Right? She's out here freaking sneaking around behind her boyfriend's back, and she's like, ugh, what do the hoes do? Because I'm not a hoe. I opened Persephone's stall and told her what a pretty sweet girl she was, and how much better she was than me, as she gave me a sleepily surprised snort and licked my face after I kissed her soft nose. She sighed and rested her on 3 feet when I started brushing her. Okay, no way I could figure out anything about dating Eric and Heath until Heath was safe. I refused to consider that he might never be safe, might never be found alive. I hate when stories or people do this. No, if you can't be like, I value this person in this specific way between these two people, then you don't value either of them in that specific way. Do not be freaking thinking about your pros and cons. Be thinking about who you're going to be faithful to, your feelings that you have, and stick with it. I began out of respect for them, especially. Like, this is not long-term attainable, maintainable, whatever. Yeah, it's just gross. Especially after he showed that he had so many feelings for her just before he left. I don't understand why infidelity is so common in stories. I began to quiet the babble and clutter and confusion that was in my mind. Truthfully, I hadn't needed Eric to tell me that I might be able to find Heath. That possibility was one of many things that had been making me so restless all night. The cowardly truth was that I was afraid of what I might find and what I might not find, and afraid that I wouldn't be strong enough to deal with either. Stevie Ray's death had left me broken, and I wasn't sure that I would be up for saving anybody. She's not broken. She was like, bruh, the cat is the best character. I don't know. Nala likes her, so I don't know. Nala's not a very good judge of character. Crumble and I are on the same page. So, thinking of Heath, I started by remembering what a cute kid he'd been in grade school. In third grade, his hair had been lots blonder than it was. Oh my gosh, it says who's on the leaderboard now? It advertises who's on the leaderboard now? Did you change your display picture, Vanya? Okay. It used to stand all over his head like a duck fluff. Third grade was when he'd first told me that he loved me and was going to someday marry me. I'd been in second grade, and I so didn't take him seriously. I mean, even though I was almost 2 years younger, I'd been a foot taller. He was cute, but he was also a boy, which meant he was annoying. Okay, so he could still be annoying, but he'd grown up and filled out. Somewhere between third and 11th grade, sorry, I'd started taking him seriously. Oh my gosh. W. A W for toasty. I remember back to the first time he'd really kissed me and the fluttery, excited way that it made me feel. I remember how sweet he was and how he could make me feel beautiful, and when he had a terrible cold and my nose was bright red. I might bring back the mukbangs instead of romance because it's less annoying in this context. Even when I had a terrible cold and my nose was bright red, and how he was an old fashioned gentleman. Heath had been opening doors and carrying books for me since he was 9. Then I thought about the last time that I'd seen him. Oh my gosh, and a flower. Toasty. Toasty at the top of the leaderboards now. She just stole the leaderboard with that flower and my heart. He'd been so sure that we belonged together and was so unafraid of me that he'd cut himself and offered his blood to me. I closed my eyes and leaned against Persephone's soft flank, thinking of Heath and letting the memories of him drift past my closed lids like a movie screen. Then the images of our past changed, and I got a vague sense of darkness and dampness and cold, and fear slammed into my gut. I gasped, keeping my eyes tightly closed. I wanted to focus in on him like I had that one other time when somehow I'd seen him in his bedroom. But this connection between us was different. It was less clear, more filled with dark emotions than playful desire. I concentrated harder and did what Eric had said to do. I called Heath. Why is it suddenly advertising leaderboard position? Toasty is invincible. Aloud, as well as with everything inside of me, I said, Heath, come to me. I'm calling you, Heath. I want you to come to me now, wherever you are. Get out of there and come to me. Nothing. There was no answer, no response, no sense of anything more than damp, cold fear. I called again, Heath, come to me. This time, I felt a surge of frustration, followed by despair. But I didn't get an image of him. I knew that he wouldn't come to me, but I didn't know where he was. Why had I been able to see him so much more easily before? How had I done it? I'd been thinking about Heath then, just like I had been now. I'd been thinking about. What had I been thinking about? Then I felt my cheeks get hot as I realized what had drawn me to him before. I hadn't been thinking about how cute he'd been or how pretty he made me feel. I'd been thinking about drinking his blood, feeding on him, and the red hot bloodlust that caused. Okay, well then. I drew a deep breath and thought about Heath's blood. It tasted like liquid desire, hot and thick and electric. It made my body burst alive in places that had only begun to rouse before, and those places were starving. I wanted to drink Heath's sweet blood while he satisfied my yearning for Hot Pockets, his his kitchen, the taste. Grumble winning the duel. The disjointed image I had of darkness cleared with abruptness. That was shocking. It was still dark, but that was no problem for my night vision. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. The room was weird. It was more like a little alcove in a cave or a tunnel than a room. You know who I miss right now? I know this is totally an aside. I miss Frank and his banana facts. I don't remember too much about Supermarket, but I do remember Frank and the Banana Facts and getting locked in a mental asylum in the second half of the book. The room was weird. It was more than a little alcove in a cave or a tunnel than a room. The walls were round and damp. There was some light, and it was coming from a dim, smoky lantern that hung from a rusted hook. Everything else was complete darkness. What I thought at first was a pile of dirty clothes moved and moaned. This time, it wasn't just a thread like feeler I was looking through. It was actually as if I was floating, and when I recognized the moan of my hovering body drifted over to him. You remember he was really mean to Paris Hilton? Frank or the guy who wrote Supermarket? I didn't know anything about him. I'm just sitting here listening to Zoe talk about all these dudes that she's leading on, and I'm like, I want to go back to another time. He was curled up on a stained mattress. His hands and ankles were duct taped together, and he was bleeding from several slashes on his neck and arms. The MC of Supermarket meets her on a plane and is mean. I don't even remember that. I believe you though. I don't know why I picked Frank and Bagot, but not what Toasty say? Bagunji. That's fair. It's fair to be super protective of Paris Hilton. She's been through shit. Bagunji. I saw too that Reckless Ben recently infiltrated the troubled teen camp that Paris Hilton was sent to and abused at. He was curled up on a stained mattress. His hand and ankles were duct taped together, and he was bleeding from several slashes on his neck and arms. Heath! My voice wasn't audible, but his head snapped up as if I'd just yelled at him. Zoe, is that you? And then his eyes widened and he sat straight up, looking wildly around. Get out of here, Zoe. They're crazy. They'll kill you like they did Chris and Brad. And he started to struggle, trying desperately to break the tape, even though all that was happening was he was making his already raw wrists bleed. Heath, stop. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not here. Not really. He stopped struggling and squinted around like he was trying to see me. But I can hear you. Inside of your head. That's where you hear me, Heath. It's because we've imprinted and now we're linked. Unexpectedly, Heath grinned. That's cool, Zoe. I gave a mental eye roll. Okay, Heath, focus. Where are you? You won't believe this, Zoe, but I'm under Tulsa. What does that mean, Heath? Remember in Shadow's history class, he told us about the tunnels that were dug under Tulsa in the 20s because of an unalcohol thing? Prohibition? Yeah, that. I'm in one of them. I didn't know what to say for a second. I vaguely remembered learning about the tunnels in history class and was astounded that Heath, not exactly an excellent student, would remember that. As if he understood my hesitation, he grinned. It was about sneaking booze. I thought it was cool. I don't know how a mental eye roll works. After another mental eye roll, I said, just tell me how to get there, Heath. He shook his head, and a way too familiar stubborn look settled over his face. No way. They'll kill you. Go tell the cops and have them send SWAT team or something. That was exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get Detective Marks's card out of my pocket, call him, and have him save the day. Unfortunately, I was afraid that I couldn't. Who is they? I asked. Huh? The people who took you. Who are they? They're not people. And they're not communists, even though they drink blood. But they're not like you, Zoe. They're. He broke off, shuddering. There's something else, something wrong. Have they been drinking your blood? The thought made me furious with such an intensity that I was having a hard time controlling my emotions. I wanted to rage at someone and shriek, he belongs to me. I forced myself to take several deep breaths while he answered me. Yeah, they have. He grimaced. But they complain a lot about it. They say that my blood doesn't taste right. I think that's the main reason I'm still alive. Then he swallowed hard, and his face got a shade paler. It's not like when you drink my blood, Zoe. That feels good. What they do is. He's disgusting. They're disgusting. How many of them are there? I'm not really sure. It's so dark that when they're here down here, and they always come in weird groups, all smushed together like they're scared of being alone. Well, except for three of them. One's named Elliot, one's named Venus. How weird is that? And then one of them is called Stevie Ray. My stomach nodded. Does Stevie Ray have short, curly blonde hair? Yeah, she's the one that's in charge. Heath had just substantiated my fears. I couldn't call the police. Okay, Heath, I'm going to get you out of there. Tell me how to find your tunnel. Are you going to get the cops? Yes. No, you're lying. I am not, Zoe. I can tell that you're lying. I can feel it. It's that link thing. Heath, I can't get the police. Then I'm not telling you where I am. Echoing from down one end of the tunnel came a skittering that reminded me of the sound the science experiment rat made as they scurried through the mazes we made in AP Bio. Heath's grin was gone, as was the color that had returned to his cheeks while we talked. Heath, we don't have time for this. He started to shake his head no. Listen to me. I have special powers. Those I hesitated, not sure what to call the group of creatures that somehow included my dead best friend. Those things aren't going to be able to hurt me. Heath didn't say anything, but he didn't look convinced, and the rat like sounds were getting louder. You said that you can tell that I'm lying because of our link. It has to go both ways. You've got to be able to tell when what I say is the truth. He looked like he was waffling, so I added, "Think hard. You said you remember some of the nights that you found me at the Philbrook. I saved you that night, Heath. Not the cops, not an adult communist. I saved you, and I can do it again." I was glad that I sounded a lot more certain than I felt. "Tell me where you are." Yeah, yeah, it's super silly because it's also like technically it should go like one way because the vampire is in the power position. They're in the they own you position because they're the one that also caused the link. So it should only be able to go one way, not both ways. He thought for a while, and I was getting ready to yell at him again when he finally said, "You know where the old depot is downtown?" "Yeah. You can see it from the Performing Arts Center where we went to see the Phantom for my birthday last year, right?" "Yeah. They took me to the basement of it. They got in through something that looked like a barred door. It's old and rusted, but it lifts right up. The tunnel starts from the drainage grates down there." "Good, Isle. Wait, that's not all. There are lots of tunnels. They're more like caves. It's not cool like I thought they'd be from history class. They're dark and wet and disgusting. Pick the one on your right and then keep turning to your right. I'm on the end of one of those." "Okay, I'll be there as soon as I can. Be careful, Zoe." "I will. You be safe." "I'll try." Hissing was added as the scurrying noises. "But you should probably hurry." So, are these places like the Prohibition speakeasies? I can't say that I've been to a ton of underground bars slash tunnels, but I did go to one in it was either Washington. No, what was it? California. It might have been in California actually, because I think it was when I went to the Winchester House. But it was so long ago. I do remember going to it though. That was like when I was a single digit, because I lived in California for like feel like it was a couple of months, but also when you're a child, time doesn't work the same. But I feel like that was when we were living with Miss Anita. I have not seen Paris Hilton cook lasagna. Anyway, the underground tunnels, yeah, they were a museum, sort of. So they were preserved, but then that meant that they looked like kind of like they were when they were operating, and they were not just like moist, dank tunnels. They had, like, wood spots, and they had different areas built for different things, like the different storage areas. The cool thing about that tunnel, was also that on that part of the town, you could walk over the sidewalk, and there were actually stained glass in the sidewalk above that would bring light down below, but it would obscure what was below. So then the underground tunnels did actually have some natural light, but it was hidden and it you couldn't necessarily tell from the top level that there was something under there. Yeah, it was so cool. Obviously, it's one of the memories that I still have of childhood. I don't have too many memories of childhood, but I remember bits of the underground tunnel and going to see the Winchester house. I don't remember too many specifics, but I do remember those. And then there was when you went through the underground tunnel, it also like led up to one of the exits was in somebody's house, and it was like behind a hidden door that was like behind a bureau or inside of a bureau. Uh with like one-way glass so you could see out into the hallway out there. And so like when we came back up, we entered into that apartment, then we came through the secret door. Anyway, it was cool. I couldn't tell you where. I'm pretty sure that was in California now. Yeah. I'd go again. It's been so long, but it was so cool. Who wants to go and explore the Winchester house with me? Let's see. Underground. Let me look this up really quick. Underground bar. California. Winchester. I don't know. The secret underground. No. I don't know. This might be harder to find. I might have to look for special words. I was like, I can't imagine this place doesn't exist anymore because it, it was already old 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It was back whenever I was learning my times tables. That's also something I remember from California. I was learning my times tables then. I opened my eyes and I was back in the stall with Persephone. I was breathing hard and sweating, and the mare was muzzling, and the bear was muzzling me and making soft, worried, nickering noises, growling noises, really. My hands were shaking as I caressed her head and rubbed her jaw, telling her that it was going to be okay, even though I was pretty sure it wasn't. The old downtown depot was 6 or 7 miles away in dark, unused part of town, under a big, scary bridge that linked one part of the city to an almost non one part of the city to another. It was to be a majorly busy. It used to be majorly busy with freight and passenger trains coming and going almost nonstop. But in the past couple of decades, all of the passenger traffic had stopped. I knew because my grandma had wanted to take me on a train trip for my 13th birthday, and we had to drive to Oklahoma City to catch the train there, and the freight train business was had definitely dwindled. Under normal circumstances, it would only take a few minutes to zip from the motherlands to the depot. Tonight, I was not dealing with normal circumstances. I don't know, a bear can get through the snow. Riding a bear can get you through the snow, I feel like pretty well. The 10 o'clock news had said that the roads were impassable, and that had been. I checked my watch and blinked in surprise a couple hours ago. I couldn't drive there. I suppose that I could walk, but the urgency I felt was telling me that I wasn't good enough. Take the bear. Persephone and I both shied at the sound of Aphrodite's voice. She was leaning against the stall door, looking pale and grim. You look like crap, I said. She almost smiled. Visions suck. Visions suck. Why is she so mean? Welcome back, Bobby. You have some milky bubbly white. What? Milka bubbly white? The chocolate? Did you see Heath? My stomach clenched again. Aphrodite didn't have visions of happiness and light. She saw death and destruction, always. Yeah. And? And if you don't get your bear and get your ass to wherever he is, he's going to die. That is, unless you don't believe me. I believe you. Then get the hell out of here. She came into the stall and handed me a bridle that I hadn't noticed that she'd been holding. While I put it on Persephone, Aphrodite disappeared to come back with the saddle and saddle blanket. Silently, we put both tack on Persephone, who seemed to sense our intensity because she held completely still. When she was ready, I led her from the stall. Call your friends first, Aphrodite said. You can't beat those things on your own. But how are they going to go with But how are they going to go with me? My stomach hurt. I was so scared that my hands were shaking, and I was having trouble understanding what the hell Aphrodite was saying. They can't go with you, but they can still help you. Aphrodite, I don't have time for riddles. What the hell do you mean? Shit, I don't know. I just know that they can help you. I flipped open my cell phone and, following my gut and breathing a silent prayer for the guidance from Daddy Marks, punched Shawnee's number in. She answered on the first ring. What's up, Zoe? I need you and Aaron and Damien to go somewhere together and to call your elements like you did for Stevie Ray. No problem. Are you going to meet us? No, I'm gonna get Heath. To her credit, Shawnee hesitated for only a second or two and then said, Okay, what can we do? Just be together, manifest your elements, and think about me. I was getting really good at sounding calm, and even when I thought my head might explode, I severely dislike that it's a think about me, I am the leader, I am the president of the party, I am the goddess. Because I severely dislike Zoe. I don't like that all of her friends are being told to basically worship her. Zoe, be careful. I will. Don't worry. Yeah, I'd worry enough for both of us. Eric isn't gonna like this. I know. Tell him. Tell him that I'll talk to him when I get back. I had no clue about what else to say. Okay, I'll tell him. Thanks, Shawnee. I'll see ya. I said and closed the phone. Then I faced Aphrodite. What are those creatures? I don't know. But you saw them in your vision? Today was the second vision I had about them, though. The first time I saw them, the other two guys were being killed by them. Aphrodite brushed a thick strand of blonde hair from her face. Instantly, I was pissed. And you didn't say anything about it because they're just freaking capitalist teenagers and not worth your time to save? Aphrodite's eyes blazed with anger. I told Putin. I told him everything about the capitalist kids, about those things, everything. And that's when he started saying that my visions were false. I knew that she was telling the truth just as surely as I had begun to know that there was something dark about Putin. Sorry, I didn't know. She keeps trusting Aphrodite. And for every little bit of the slightest thing, she's like, You're a hag, you're a liar. She's yelling at her. Like, Zoe, get a grip. How about you work as a teammate instead of a dictator? Oh, impossible. Whatever. You need to get out of here or your boyfriend is going to die, and you're lucky that I told you because I don't care about you and I don't care about him, but I am a bigger person than you. Uh, ex boyfriend? Again, I say whatever, I don't care. You're here. I'll give you a leg up. I let her hoist. She just yelled at you when you were telling the truth and you were getting on your knees to hoist her up. Bruh, it's so annoying. Take this with you. Aphrodite handed me a thick plaid bear blanket. Before I could protest, she said, It's not for you. He'll need it. I wrapped the blanket around me, taking comfort in its earthy berry smell. I followed as Aphrodite went to the rear doors of the stable and slid them apart. Frigid air and snow swirled in little mini tornadoes into the barn, making me shiver, although it was more from nerves and apprehension than from the cold. Stevie Ray is one of them, Aphrodite said. I looked down at her, and she was staring out into the night. I know. She's not who she used to be. I know. Thanks for this, Aphrodite. She did look up at me, then her expression was flat and unreadable. Don't start acting like we're friends or anything. Wouldn't think of it. I mean, we're not friends. Nope, definitely not. I was pretty sure I saw her trying not to smile. As long as long as we have that straight. Oh, remember to pull silence and darkness around yourself so that the capitalists will have a hard time seeing you on the way there. You don't have time to be stopped. Will do. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, well, good luck. I gripped the reins and took a deep breath and then squeezed my thighs together, clucking at Persephone to go. I entered the world that was weirdly made of white darkness. Whiteout was definitely the right description of it. The snow had changed from big friendly flakes to sharp little razor like pieces of snow ice. The wind was steadily making the snow slant sideways. I pulled the blanket over my head so that I was partially protected from the snow and leaned forward, kicking Persephone into a quick trot. Hurry! My mind was yelling at me. Heath needs you. I cut across the parking lot and rear part of the school grounds. A few cars still at school were covered with snow, and the flickering gaslight that shined crazily off of their backs made them look like June bugs on the screen door. I pressed the inside button of the gate to open. It tried to swing wide, but a snowdrift caught, and the Persephone and I had barely enough time to squeeze through. I I turned her to the right and stood for a moment under covers of the oak that framed the school grounds. We're silent ghosts. No one can see us. No one can hear us. I murmured against the whining wind and was shocked when the area around me stilled. With a sudden thought, I continued. Wind, be calm near me. Fire, warm my way. Water, still the snow in my path. Earth, shelter me when you can. And Spirit, help me to not give in to the fear. The words were barely out of my mouth when I saw a little flash of energy around me. Persephone snorted and skittered a little to the side. As she moved, it was like a little bubble of serenity moved with her. Yes, it was still blizzarding, and the night was still cold and frighteningly alien, but I was filled with calm and surrounded by the protections of the elements. I bowed my head and whispered, Thank you, Daddy Marks, for the greatest gift that you could have given me. Silently, I added that I had hoped I deserved them. Let's get Heath, I told Persephone. She swung into a ground-eating canter easily, and I was amazed to see that the snow and ice seemed to fly back from her feet, from her claws, as she magically blasted through the night under the watchful eye of the Daddy Marks, who was himself, night personified. Do you think that the vamps was an original thing that these writers put in, or that they added them because it was popular at the time and it was meant to be a witch thing only first? Because I mean, like the Heath imprinting couldn't happen without it, but I don't theoretically, but I feel like you could come up with a different way to make that happen. My journey was surprisingly fast. We cantered down Utica Street until we came to the exit to the Broken Arrow Expressway. Barricades were up with flashing lights warning that the expressway was closed. I felt myself smiling as I guided Persephone neatly around the barricades onto the utterly deserted highway. Then I gave the bear her head and then I gave the bear her head and galloped down to what? I clung to her, leaning low over her neck. With the blanket streaming out behind us, I imagined that I looked like a heroine in an old historical romance novel and wished that I was galloping to a naughty keg party with someone my kingly father had decided was inappropriate instead of heading into hell. She could be imagining that it's freaking Eric because she knows that Step John freaking hates communists, but no. I steered Persephone to the exit. That could be. That could very well be Grumble. That's a good theory. I steered Persephone to the exit that would take us to the Performing Arts Center and the old depot behind it. I hadn't seen anyone between Midtown and the highway, but now I saw occasional shufflings of street people around the bus station and noticed an occasional a cop car here and there. We're silent ghosts. No one can see us. No one can hear us. I kept the prayer going in my mind. No one as much as glanced in our direction. It really was as if I'd turned into a ghost, which wasn't a thought that I'd found very comforting. I slowed Persephone as we passed the Performing Arts Center and trotted over the wide bridge that spanned the confusing side-by-side meshing of old railroad tracks. When we reached the center of the bridge, I stopped Persephone and stared down at the abandoned depot building and sat below us, the dark and silent. Thanks to Mrs. Brown, my ex-art teacher at South Intermediate High School, I knew that it used to be a beautiful Art Deco building that had been abandoned and eventually looted when the trains stopped running. Now, it looked like something that should be in the Gotham City of Batman Dark Knight comics. Yes, I know, I'm a dork. Oh my gosh. Oh my cringe. Ah! Granted, I will give this that I feel like Batman was not as popular. Not saying that he wasn't popular, but it's not like he was thrust in everybody's faces to the same extent as he is now, like 15, 20 years ago. So I'll give her that. It had those huge arched windows that reminded me of teeth between the two towers that looked like perfectly creepy haunted castles. And we have to go down there, I told Persephone. She was breathing hard. It was before the Nolan films. That's what I'm saying. Is I'm like, if we take into consideration the time that this was written, I will give it a break for her being like, yeah, I know I'm a dork because Batman was not as mainstream back then. Not that it wasn't plenty popular, obviously. It was a different it was different. Can you imagine letting loose this giant grizzly? I'm just imagining Persephone as a grizzly bear, by the way. And we're just gonna like a freaking 13-foot tall grizzly bear. What's the normal height of a grizzly bear? Standing on all fours, 3 foot 35, approximately 8 feet when on hind legs. Okay, so yeah, Persephone can be like an 11-foot tall grizzly bear because we're gonna go above average height. Maximum recorded, tallest recorded grizzly bear was a male measuring 10 feet 6 inches from his nose to tail. Grizzly bears are so cute. Look, I know they're dangerous. Oh my gosh, look at that face. Okay, give me a second. I gotta share this. I just looked up grizzly bears. We got this. Somewhere. Browser. Okay, I was like, I do have a browser one somewhere. Boop. Look at that face. Grizzly bears and polar bears are my favorite kinds of bears. Oh my gosh, look at him. Look at this baby. Why do they have ear friendship? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Look at this baby. Look at this little baby. Okay, I was like, good. It is showing the one that I'm clicking. Oh my gosh, look at that foot. Feet. I need to also polar. Look, I know we all know what they. Oh my gosh, look at it. Don't look at the emaciated one. That's so sad. This is now a bear channel. I hope you know that my favorite animal has always been a bear, okay? You want to see something? You want to see something? We look at bears for 3 hours. Okay, polar bear cub. Look at this little. Oh my gosh, look at this little baby. I'm cool with that, you know? I'm not gonna mess with a polar bear. They're just so cute. Look at this little baby. Okay, I looked up polar bears for a reason. American Eskimo puppy. It looks like a little polar bear. Except now when it's got little floppy ears. Did I put puppy in? I'm pretty sure I put puppy in. Okay, good. Baby. Look, it does look like a little tiny. Oops. Like a little polar bear. Super baby polar bear. Is it any surprise? What is this? That I was like Eskies. The Esky aesthetic. Here we go. This is a blurry picture though, but still. I don't even know if this is a real picture. This could very well be AI. Let's go. I don't even know if this is a real picture either. Look. You can't tell. Look at them. Okay. They're just so cute. It is a snack. You're so nice. Sorry, I was so distracted by the new bear channel. I just. Okay. He's such a cute little baby. Now that I've derailed us, Persephone is a grizzly. 7 and 8 foot is for the lower 48. I was gonna say I felt like I think the one in the Sears, not the Sears Mall, the Fifth Avenue Mall in Anchorage was bigger than that. Actually, while we're here, biggest grizzly in Alaska. The largest grizzly bear ever recorded by Boone and Crockett Club is a skull found near Lone Mountain in 1976. This specimen measured 27 13/16 inches, making the official world record for any grizzly bear, hunter killed or not. That doesn't tell me how tall it probably was. Oh, were Kodiaks big? Are Kodiaks bigger? Giant grizzly bear taken in Alaska. New 2025. No, I need to know how tall it. I need to know. I need more information. Whoa. Whoa. I need comparisons to be able. Sorry, I've been so distracted now. I know I'm not even sharing this. You're not giving me a height. I can't. I don't know how big 27 inches for a skull means that the bear was. This does say, while inland grizzly bears are generally smaller, with large males reaching up to 8 or 9 feet on their hind legs, the massive coastal population in Alaska can exceed the size. So in general, Alaska grizzlies are bigger. Bear trade. True. True. Uh, I steered Persephone to the exit that would take us to the Performing Arts Center. Okay, I slowed Persephone as we passed the Performing Arts Center and trotted over the wide bridge that spanned the confusing side by side meshing of old railroad tracks. When we reached the center of the bridge, I stopped Persephone and stared down at the abandoned depot building that sat below us, dark and silent. Thanks to Mrs. Brown, my ex art teacher at South Intermediate High School, I knew that it used to be a beautiful building. Okay, we already did that. Got him. Got Gotham. And we have to go down there, I told Persephone. She was breathing hard from our ride, but she didn't seem particularly worried, which I'd hoped was a good sign. You know, animals being able to sense bad stuff and all. I we finished crossing the bridge and I found the broken little side road that led down to the depot. The track level was dark, really dark. That shouldn't have bothered me. What with my excellent fledgling recruit night vision, but it did. The truth was that I was totally creeped out as Persephone walked into the building and I began slowly circling it, looking for the basement entrance that Heath had described. It didn't take long to find the rusted iron grill that appeared to be impassable barrier. I didn't let myself hesitate and think about how completely afraid I was. I got off Persephone and led her over to the covered entryway so that she'd be out of the wind and protected from most of the snow. I looped her reins around the metal thingy, laid the extra blanket on her back, and spent as long as I could patting her and telling her what a brave, sweet girl she was, and that I'd be back real soon. I was working toward that self-fulfilling prophecy thing and hoped that if I kept saying it, it would be true. Walking away from Persephone was hard. I guess that I hadn't realized how comforting her presence had been. I could have used some of that comfort as I stood in front of the iron grill and I tried to squint into the darkness beyond. Okay, I have a question. It depends on like how the horse is trained, and horses can be skittish. I don't really know Persephone's training super well, but if this chick might die in there, I feel like it would be a better choice to not tie Persephone to a thing in a snowstorm because your horse, if you don't come back, can't seek shelter herself. And I know then that leaves the risk of the horse running off, which is why I mentioned like training. Is the horse trained well enough that she could stay out there if you left her out there? Because I feel like if you're this unsure that you're going to be not coming back, going to be coming back, then maybe I don't know. But then she could come back and then the horse had run off. So where do you land on that? I couldn't see anything except the distinct shape of a huge dark room, the basement of a creepy, unfortunately not abandoned building. Great. Heath is down there, I reminded myself, grabbed the edge of the grill and pulled. It opened easily, which I took to be evidence of how often it must be used. Again. Great. The basement was not as awful as I'd imagined it would be. Stripes of weak light filtered between the barred ground level windows, and I could clearly see that homeless people must have been using the room. Actually, there was a lot of stuff left from them: big boxes, dirty blankets, even a shopping cart. Who knows how they managed to get that down there? But weirdly, not one homeless person. Bro, where are the bottles, the needles, and the smell of urine? It was like a homeless ghost town, which was doubly weird when I considered the weather. Wouldn't tonight be the perfect night to retreat to the comparative warmth and shelter of this basement versus trying to find someplace warm and dry on the streets or smush into the Y? And it had been snowing for days, so realistically, this room should be packed with people who had brought the boxes and stuff down here to begin with. Of course, if scary undead creatures had been using the basement, the desertion of the homeless folks made much more sense. Don't think about it. Find the drainage grate and then find Heath. The grate wasn't hard to find. I just headed for the darkest, nastiest corner of the room, and there was a metal grate on the floor. Yep, right in the corner, on the floor. Never in a gazillion years would I have ever even considered touching the disgusting thing, let alone lifting it and going down there. Naturally, that's what I had to do. The grate lifted as easily as an outside barrier had opened, telling me again that I wasn't the only person, recruit, capitalist creature who had come this way recently. There was an iron ladder thing that I had to climb down, probably about 10 feet. Then I dropped to the floor of the tunnel, and that's exactly what it was, a big, damp sewer tunnel. Oh, and it was dark too. Really dark. I stood there for a while, letting my night vision accustom itself to the dense darkness, but I couldn't just stand there for very long. The need to find Heath was like an itch beneath my skin. It goaded me on. California grizzly is 8 to 9. Inland grizzly is 6 7. Average size of Alaska grizzly. Let's get some Alaska grizzly. Length. I don't need length. I need height, bruh. I got like 3 to 4 feet on all shoulders. That's inland. Oh, grizzly. Coastal is freaking Alaska. 8 to 10 feet. Okay, that's what I thought. Kodiak bears are significantly taller and heavier than grizzly bears due to their isolated island habits and rich diets. Oh my gosh. That is Oh my gosh. Kodiak bears, large males average 680 kilograms or 1,500 pounds and can exceed 750 kilograms, which is 1,656 pounds. Whereas grizzly bears, males, are typically 360 kilograms or 800 pounds, and between 500 and 45 kilograms or 1,200. Grizzlies are more agile and leaner. Look at that hump. Come on, we need some comparisons. I need them side by side. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Give me a second. Look at these guys' face. Yeah, a little bit haunting, I'm not gonna lie. That Kodiak does have quite a hump. Oh my gosh, look at them. That Kodiak looks freaking. They both look ready to fight, honestly. Kodiak bears are slightly friendlier and often found in large numbers when hunting for their next meal. The size is perhaps responsible for their relatively relaxed posture. These majestic creatures thrive in their natural habitat, making every sighting a truly remarkable experience. Well, just so you know, the Kodiaks are nicer than the grizzlies. Denali, Kodiak Island. If you experience Kodiak bear viewing, wants to, cannot be a better place. Bear trait. I mean, bears are the same bear, different name. Oh my gosh! Look at his little face. What the? Look at this guy. You know which bear looks funny? I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of funny looking bears, but this is the one I always think of. It's always the one I think of. You too, Grumble? You too? Oh my gosh, look at that tongue. Oh my gosh. Look at this guy's little face. Hey guys. That's the face of, look, I'm just a little guy. They look like puppets sometimes. Is a sloth bear a thing? Or am I making that up? I feel like there's some weirder bears. This one's a Pokemon. He's angry. Look at that little face. Look up shoebill storks. Sloth bear is a thing. Sloth. We'll do shoebill storks in a second. Oh my gosh. This bear has bedhead. Oh my gosh, he's got the neck ring too. Sloth bears are just sun bears with bedhead. This one reminds me of Toasty. It's because of the tongue. Oh my gosh. Look at him. If they're not friendly, why do they look so friendly? Okay, Showbill. Hey, we have those. I see those in town all the time. Look at this guy. Oh my gosh. Okay, it Zoo Tampa. This fixed it. I was like, when we are looking at this one is when he's trying to not be seen by you out in public. He's hiding from you. Don't notice me. Don't freaking notice me. This is the slow rage right here. Little head nod greeting. Bro, you would love Florida for just like how many freaking birds are everywhere. You would. We got all kinds of storks. We have Ibris. Have you seen Ibris? Do you have Ibris? Are they called Ibris? There are so many of them. Ducks and different kinds of cranes and pelicans, and you're so jealous. Ibis. I put the R in there. I mean, okay, last one because I just mentioned the Ibis. Got so many of these guys. Oh. Man, we got some birds. I don't remember what they're called. If I mentioned them, Ruth would be able to be like, "It's this." I think it's a kind of stork. They're like 4 or 5 feet tall. They're always in. Oh, we got freaking black. We got black vultures around here too. All birds in Florida. Let's see if I can freaking figure this out. Sandhill crane. Is it sandhill crane? I don't think so. That's not the. I don't think. Maybe that is. Okay, this is the last one. Like for real, this will be the last. Because I just mentioned it. But I have come out of my workplace before. There we go. And if it was these, I don't know. I think so. But they're like four. They were. That's why I'm not sure. I don't want to be like it's these guys. But the birds were kind of. They at least looked like this. I'm thinking that it's these guys, and they're like 4 or 5, not 5 feet tall. They're like 3 or 4 feet tall. And there are a bunch of them, and they were always around my car when I came out, and it was just like, you guys are waiting to attack me. You guys are waiting to gang up on me. Oh, I've seen a great heron. Freaking, they always look like they were scoping out, waiting to freaking mug me. Anyway. Keep to the right, I whispered. Then I shut up because even that little sound echoed around me. I turned to the right and started to walk as quickly as I was able. Heath had been telling the truth. There were lots of tunnels. They split off over and over again, reminding me of wormholes burrowed into the ground. At first, I saw more evidence that homeless people had been down here too. But after a few right-hand turns, the boxes and scattered trash and blankets stopped. There was nothing but damp and darkness. The tunnels had gone from being smooth and round and as civilized as I imagined well-made tunnels could be to absolute crap. The sides of the walls looked like they had been gouged out with very drunk token dwarfs by very drunk token dwarfs. Again, I am aware that I am a dork. It was cold, but I didn't really feel it. Seagulls do freaking mug you. Oh my gosh. Freaking seagulls see that you got food and then they call all their friends. I remember a time when I lived in Washington State and there was like an outdoor picnic thing. We all brought our stuff. I brought like little cupcake sized peanut butter cheesecake. They were Reese's cup cheesecakes that I made. Um, but the seagull issue, they surrounded the gazebo that the food was under and they were just like walking circles around it, getting closer and closer as they closed in. It was like a little hurricane of freaking seagulls getting ready to mug the joint, man. I kept to the right, hoping that Heath had known what he was talking about. I thought about stopping long enough. They feel no, they don't. If you go over to the pier here, at least the pier that I've been to, there are a couple. But if you go to the piers here where they also sell food, you freaking see the seagulls hanging out at the places where there's the food, and they will fly down and take the food out of your hands. I thought about stopping long enough to concentrate on his blood so that I could hook into our imprint again, but the urgency I felt wouldn't let me stop. I had to find Heath. I smelled them before I heard the hissing and rustling and actually saw them. It was that musty, old, wrong scent I'd noticed every time I'd seen one of them at the wall. I realized it was the smell of death and then wondered how I didn't recognize it earlier. Then the darkness that I'd become so accustomed to gave way to faint flickering light. I stopped to focus myself. You can do this, Z. You've been chosen by your daddy marks. You kicked communist ghost ass. This is something that you can definitely handle. And your dad was working outside on a hot day and a bunch of vultures watching. They're freaking waiting for him to die. They do that. They're like, you thirsty? You feeling like passing out? I was still trying to focus, aka talk myself into being brave, when Heath screamed. Then there was no more time for focusing or internal pep talks. I ran forward toward Heath's scream. Okay, I probably should explain that communists are stronger and faster than capitalists, and even though I'm still just a recruit, I'm a very weird recruit. So when I say I ran, I mean I seriously moved fast. Fast and silent, like a fart. I found them in what must have been seconds, but it felt like hours. They were in the little alcove at the end of the crude tunnel. The lantern that I'd noticed before was hanging from a rusty nail, moving uh throwing their shadows grotesquely against the crudely curved wall. They had formed a little half circle around Heath, and he was standing on a dirty mattress, and his back was pressed to the wall. Somehow he'd gotten the duct tape off his ankles, but his wrists were still securely bound together. He had a new cut on his right arm, and the scent of his blood was thick and seductive. It's the tension. Not, there are two things that can cause the farts. One is tension. Two is alcohol. Toasty would know. And that was my last goad. Heath belonged to me. Despite my confusion about the whole blood issue and despite my feelings for Eric, Heath was mine and no one else was ever going to feed from what was mine. I burst through the circle of hissing creatures like I was a bowling ball. Came in like a wrecking ball. And they were brainless pins and moved to his side. Zoe, he looked deliriously happy for a split second, and then, just like a guy, he tried to push me behind him. Watch out! Their teeth and claws are like really sharp, he added in a whisper. You really didn't bring a SWAT team? It was easy to keep him from pushing me anywhere. I mean, he's cute and all, but he is just a capitalist. I patted his bound hands where he clutched my arm and smiled at him, and with one slash of my thumbnail, I cut through the gray tape that held his wrists. His eyes widened as he pulled his hands apart. I grinned at him. My fear was gone. Now I was just incredibly pissed. What I brought is better than SWAT team. Just stay behind me and watch. I pushed Heath to the wall and stepped in front of him as I turned to face the closing circle of Eesh. They were the most disgusting things I'd ever seen. There were probably a dozen or so of them. Their faces were white and gaunt, and their eyes glowed a dirty red. They snarled and hissed at me, and I saw that their teeth were pointed and their fingernails, ugh, their fingernails were long and yellow and dangerous looking. It's just the recruits, hissed one of them. The hammer and sickle doesn't make him her a communist. It makes her free. How can they even say that? I have not heard Wrecking Ball in the style of Linkin Park. You should share it with me. I looked at the speaker. Elliot. I was. I'm not the Elliot you know anymore. Snake like his head wove back and forth as he spoke. When his glowing eyes flattened and he curled his lip, I'll show you what I mean. He started to move toward me with feral, crouching stride. The other creatures stirred, gaining bravery from him. Watch out, Zoe. They're coming right for us, Heath said, trying to step around in front of me. No, they're not, I said. I closed my eyes for just a second and centered myself, thinking of the power and warmth of the flame, the way that it cleanses as well as destroys, and I thought of Shawnee. Come to me, flame. My palms started to feel hot. I opened my eyes and raised my hands, which were now glowing with a brilliant yellow flame. Stay back, Elliot. You were a pain in my ass when you were alive, and death hasn't changed anything. Elliot cringed back from the light. What did Elliot freaking do other than be a ginger? I took a step forward, ready to tell Heath to follow me as we would get the hell out of here, but her voice made me freeze. You're wrong, Zoe. Death has changed some things. The crowd parted to let Stevie Ray through. The flame in my palms sputtered and faded as shock broke my concentration. Stevie Ray! I started to take a step toward her, but the truth of her appearance hit me, and I felt my body go cold and still. She looked terrible, worse than she had in the dream vision I had. It wasn't so much her pale thinness or the awful wrongness of the smell that clung to her that made her appear so changed. It was her expression. In life, Stevie Ray had been the kindest person that I had ever known. But now, whatever she was, dead, undead, bizarrely resurrected, she was different. Her eyes were cruel and flat, her face devoid of any emotion except one, and that emotion was hatred. Stevie Ray, what happened to you? I died. Her voice was only a twisted, malformed shadow of what it once had been. She still had her oaky twang, but the soft sweetness that had once filled it was totally gone, and she sounded like mean trailer trash. Are you a ghost? A ghost? Huh! No, I ain't no damn ghost. I swallowed and felt a dizzy wash of hope. So you're alive. She curled her lip in a sarcastic sneer that looked so wrong on her face it made me physically ill. You'd say I'm alive, but I'd say that it's not that simple. Then again, I'm not as simple as I used to be. Well, at least she hadn't hissed at me like the Elliot thing had. Stevie Ray is alive. I held tightly to that miracle, swallowed my fear and revulsion, and moving so quickly that she didn't have time to jerk away or bite me or whatever, I grabbed her and ignored the horrid way that she smelled and hugged her hard. I'm so glad you're not dead, I whispered to her. It was like hugging a smelly piece of stone. She didn't jerk away from me. She didn't bite me. She didn't react at all, but the creature surrounding us did. I could hear them hissing and muttering. I let go of her and stepped back. Don't touch me again, she said. Stevie Ray, is there some place that we can go and we can just talk? I need to get Heath home, but I can't come back and meet you. But I can come back and meet you. Or maybe you could come back to school with me. You don't understand anything, do you? I understand that something bad has happened to you, but you are still my best friend and we can figure this out. Zoe, you're not going anywhere. Fine, I purposefully pretended to misunderstand her threat. I guess that we could talk here, but well, I look around at the grossly hissing creatures. It's not very private, and it's so disgusting down here. Just kill them, Elliot snarled from behind Stevie Ray. Shut up, Elliot. Stevie Ray and I snapped at him together. Her eyes met mine, and I swear I saw a flash of something in them that was more than anger or cruelty. You know they can't live like now that they have seen us, Elliot said. The other creatures stirred restlessly, making evil little noises of agreement. Then a girl stepped out of the pack. She obviously used to be beautiful. Even now, she was eerie, surreal, allure about her. There was an eerie, surreal allure about her. She was tall and blonde, and she moved more gracefully than the others. And when I looked her in the red eyes, I saw only meanness. If you can't do it, I will. I'll take the male first. I don't mind that his blood has been tainted by imprint. It was still warm and alive, she said, and she seemed to dance toward Heath. I stepped in front of him, blocking her path. Touch him and die. Again, I said. Stevie Ray interrupted her hissing laughter. Get back with the others, Venus. You don't strike until I tell you to. Venus. The name triggered my memory. Venus Davis? I said. The pretty blonde narrowed her eyes to me. How do you know me, recruit? She knows a lot of stuff, Heath said, stepping around me. He was using what I used to call a football player voice. He sounded tough and pissed and totally ready to fight. And I'm about sick of all of you fucked up creatures. Why is that speaking? Stevie Ray spat. I sighed and rolled my eyes. I agreed with Heath. I was totally sick of all of this scary weirdness. It was time that we got out of there, and it was also time that my best friend started acting like the person I'd glimpsed hiding in her eyes. He isn't that. He's Heath. Remember Stevie Ray, my ex-boyfriend? Zoe, I'm not your ex-boyfriend. I'm your boyfriend. Heath, I told you before that this can't work between us. Come on, Zoe. We're imprinted. This means it's you and me, baby. He grinned as if we were in the middle of a prom instead of in the middle of a group of undead creatures that wanted to eat us. That was an accident, and we're gonna have to talk about it, but this is definitely not the time. Oh, Zoe, you know that you love me. Heath's grin didn't fade one bit. Heath, you are the most stubborn kid I have ever known. He winked at me, and I couldn't help but smile back at him. Fine, I love you. She needs to freaking get straight with Eric and be like, look, Heath is my childhood friend. I think that you're super hot, Eric, but Heath and I have history, and now we have electrochemistry, and I just think that you're hot and talented, and I'm being selfish. What's happening? The gross Elliot creature hissed. The rest of the horrid things that surrounded us moved restlessly, and Venus glided one step closer to Heath. I forced myself not to shiver or scream or whatever, and instead a weird calm came over me. I looked at Stevie Ray and suddenly knew what I needed to say. I put my hands on my hips and faced her. Tell him. Tell all of them. Tell them what? She narrowed her garnet eyes dangerously. Tell them what happened here. You know. I know you do. Stevie Ray's face contorted, and the words sounded like they were being wrenched from her throat. Humanity. They're showing their humanity. The creatures snarled like she'd just thrown holy water on them. And please, that's such an untrue cliche about communists. Communists cringe when you throw holy water on them. Weakness. We should say it should be like dollar bills. Weakness. It's why we're stronger than they are. Venus curled her lips because it's a weakness we don't have anymore. I ignored Venus. I ignored Elliot. Hell, I ignored all of them and stared at Stevie Ray, forcing her to meet my eyes and forcing myself not to look away or flinch as hers glowed hot and red. Bullshit, I said. That's right, Stevie Ray said. Her voice was cold and mean. When we died, so did our humanity. That might be true with them, but I don't believe it's true with you. Why? Why is she different? You don't know anything about these, Zoe, Stevie Ray said. I don't have to. I know you, and I know our daddy Marks, and that's all I need to know. He's not my daddy anymore. Really? Just like that, daddy's not your daddy anymore? I knew I'd hit a nerve when I saw her jerk as if she were in physical pain. I don't have, I don't have daddy. I am not communist anymore. A big effing deal. Technically, I'm not a capitalist either. I'm somewhere in the middle of the I'm somewhere in the middle of taking the vodka, which makes me a little of this and a little and a lot of that. Hell, the only one who's here that is still a capitalist is Heath. Not that I hold your uncapitalistness against you guys. I sighed. Heath, uncapitalistness isn't a word. It's it's communism. Zoe, I'm not stupid. I know that. I was just coining a word. Coining? Had he really said that? He nodded. I learned about it in Dickinson's English class. It has to do with Uh, poetry. Despite our awful situation, I laughed. Heath, you really have been studying. I told you so, he grinned, looking completely adorable. Enough, Stevie Ray's voice echoed off of the round walls and tunnel. I'm done with this. She turned her back to Heath and me, ignoring us completely. They've seen us. They know too much. They have to die. Kill them. She walked away. This time, why did she suddenly become the boss? She's the newest recruit there. This time, Heath didn't mess with trying to pull me behind him. Instead, he whirled around and completely catching me off guard, tackled me so that I landed on my butt on the disgusting mattress with an oof. Then he turned to closing circle of snarling undead creatures with his legs planted, hips width apart, and his hands balled into fists. He gave a broken arrow tiger football growl. Bring it, freaks. Good luck, Bobby. Okay, it wasn't that I didn't appreciate Heath's macho-ness, but boy was in over his cute blonde head. I stood up and centered myself. Fire, I need you again. This time I yelled the words with a command of the Daddy Marks, of the party leader, sorry. Flames burst into life from my palms of my hands, all up and down my arms. I would have liked to have taken time to study the fire that I'd called into being. It was cool that it could burn on me, and not actually burn me, but there was no time for that. Move, Heath. He looked over his shoulder at me, and his eyes got huge and round. Zoe, I'm fine, just move. He jumped out of the way as, burning, I walked forward. The creatures cringed back from me, even as their hands tried to reach around me to get to Heath. Stop it, I yelled. Back off and leave him alone. Heath and I are going to walk out of here now. If you try to stop us, I'm going to kill you, and I have a feeling that this time you're going to die for good. Okay, I really, really, really didn't want to kill anyone, except for Elliot. What I wanted to do was get Heath out of here and then find Stevie Ray and have her explain how this whole recruit who were supposed to have died could be walking around with bad attitudes, glowing eyes, and smelling like mold and dust. From the edges of my vision, I saw a movement. I turned in time to see one of the creatures launch herself at Heath. I lifted my arms and flung the fire at her as if I were throwing a ball. As she screamed and went up in flames, I recognized her and had to fight hard not to be sick. It was Elizabeth, no last name, the nice girl who had died last month. Now her burning body writhed on the floor, reeking of spoiled meat and decay, which was all that was left of her lifeless shell. Wind and rain, I call you, I cried, and as the air around me began to swirl and fill with the scent of the spring rain, I got a flash of Damien and Aaron sitting cross legged beside Shawnee. Their eyes were closed in concentration, and they were holding votives the color of their elements. I pointed my fiery finger at Elizabeth's smoldering body, and it washed in a sudden flush of rain. Then a cool breeze took the green tinged smoke, lifting it above our heads, and carried its stench down the tunnel and into the night. I faced the creatures again. That's what I'll do if any of you to any of you who try to stop us. I motioned for Heath to walk in front of me, and I followed him, backing away from the creatures. They followed us. I couldn't see them as we rewound our way through the dark tunnels, but I could hear them their shuffling feet and muffled snarls. It was about then that I began to feel the exhaustion. It was like I was a cell phone and hadn't been charged in a while, and someone was talking on me for too long. I let the fire that outlined my arms go, except for a flicker of flame that I cupped in my right hand. No way Heath could see the walk out of here without that, and I was still backing away behind him, keeping an eye out for the attacking creatures. After I passed off two offshoots of tunnel branches, I called for Heath to stop. We should hurry, Zoe. I know that you have this power thing going on, but there are a lot of them, more than what were back there. I don't know how many you can handle. He touched my face. Not to be mean or anything, but you look like shit. I felt like poo, too, but I didn't want to mention it. I have an idea. We just come around the curve where the tunnel had narrowed until we could touch either side of it by spreading out our arms. I walked back to the narrowest part of the curve. Heath started to follow me, but I told him, "Stand over there," and pointed farther down the tunnel. The way that we were heading, he frowned, but did as I told him. I turned my back to Heath and concentrated. Lifting my arms, I thought of newly plowed fields and pretty Oklahoma meadows filled with uncut winter hay. I thought of the earth and how I was standing within it, surrounded by it. Earth, I call to you. As I lifted my arms, a vision of Stevie Ray flashed across my closed eyelids. She wasn't as she used to be, sweet-faced and concentrating hard over a glowing green candle. She was curled up in the corner of a dark tunnel. Her face was gaunt and white, and her eyes glowed scarlet. But her face wasn't an emotionless parody of herself or a cruel mask. She was weeping openly, her expression filled with despair. It's a start, I thought. Then, with a swift, powerful motion, I lowered my arms while I commanded, "Close!" In front of and above me. Piece of dirt and rock began to fall from the ceiling. At first it was a trickle of pebbles, but soon there was a mini avalanche going on that quickly drowned out the pissed off growls and hisses of the trapped creatures. A wave of weakness crashed over me, and I staggered back. "I got you, Zoe." Heath's strong arms were around me, and I let myself rest against him for a moment. Several of his cuts had broken loose during our escape, and the ripe scent of his blood trickled against my senses. "They're not really trapped, you know," I said softly, trying to keep my mind off how much I wanted to lick the line of blood that was trickling down his cheek. "We passed a couple other tunnels. I'm sure that they'll be able to find their way out eventually." "It's okay, so." Heath kept his arms wrapped around me, but pulled back enough so that he could look into my eyes. "I know what you need. I can feel it. If you feed from me, you won't be so weak." He smiled, and his blue eyes darkened. "It's okay. I want you to. Heath, you've been through way too much. Who knows how much blood you've already lost? My drinking more of it isn't going to be a good idea." I was saying no, but my voice trembled with desire. "Are you kidding? A big, sturdy football jock like me? I got plenty of blood to spare." Heath teased. Then he's feeding more than a dozen of these things. I don't know about that, my guy. "For you, I have anything to spare." While he looked into my eyes, he wiped one of his fingers down the damp red slash in his cheek and then rubbed the blood onto his bottom lip. Then he bent and kissed me. The taste I tasted the dark sweetness of the blood, and it dissolved in my mouth to send surges of fiery pleasure, and energy through my body. Heath pulled his lips from mine and guided me to the cut on his cheek. When my tongue snaked out and touched it, he moaned and pressed my hips closer to his. I closed my eyes and began to lick. Kill me! Stevie Ray's broken voice shattered the spell of Heath's blood. My face flamed with embarrassment as I pushed myself out of Heath's arms, wiping my mouth and breathing hard. Stevie Ray was standing down the tunnel just a few yards from us. Tears still rained down her cheeks, and her face was twisted in despair. Kill me, she repeated on a sob. No. I shook my head and took a step towards her, but she backed away from me, putting up her hands as if she wanted to hold me off. I stopped and gulped some deep breaths, trying to get myself under control. Come back to the house of night. Come back to the motherland with me. We'll figure out how this happened. It'll be okay, Stevie Ray, I promise. All that matters is that you're alive. Stevie Ray had started shaking her head as I began talking. I'm not really alive, and I can't go back there. Of course you're alive. You're walking and talking. I'm not me anymore. I did die, and part of me, the best part of me, is still dead, just like it is for the rest of them. She gestured back to the cave-in. You're not like they are. I'm more like them than I am like you. Her gaze shifted from me to Heath, who was standing quietly beside me. You wouldn't believe the awful things that go through my mind. I could kill him without second thought. I would have already if his blood hadn't been changed by the imprint with you. Maybe it wasn't just that, Stevie Ray. Maybe you didn't kill him because you really didn't want to. Her eyes found mine. No, I wanted to kill him. I still do. The rest of them killed Brad and Chris, and that was my fault. Heath, now's not the time. No, you need to hear this, Zoe. Those things grabbed Brad and Chris because they were hanging around the motherland, and that's my fault because I told them how hot you are. Didn't they already know her? Because she was with Heath back in school before she went off to the friggin' motherland. These guys gonna sneak into a night school that they don't go to see how hot his not girlfriend is? His ex-girlfriend, sorry. He gave me an apologetic look. Sorry, there is not a stupider reason than they were around the school because they wanted to see how hot you were. Then his expression hardened. He said, you should kill her. You should kill them all. As long as they're alive, people will be in danger. He's right, Stevie Ray said. And how will killing you and the rest of them solve this? Won't more of you happen? I made up my mind and closed the space between Stevie Ray and me, and she looked like she wanted to take off, but my words stopped her. How did this happen? What made you like this? Her face contorted with anguish. I don't know. I only know who. Then, who did this? She opened her mouth to answer me. Then, with a moment so fast her body blurred, she was suddenly cowering against the side of a tunnel. She's coming. What? Oh, it's probably he. He's coming. What? Who? I crouched beside her. Get out of here fast. There's probably still time for you to get away. Then Stevie Ray reached out and took my hand in hers. Her flesh was cold, but her grip was strong. He'll kill you if he sees you. You and him. You know too much. He may kill you anyway, but it'll be harder for him to do it if you're back in the motherland. Who are you talking about, Stevie Ray? Putin. Vladimir Putin. The name blasted through me, and even as I shook my head in denial, I felt the truth of it deep within me. Putin did this to you? All of you? Yes. And now, get out of here, Zoe. I could feel her terror, and I knew that she was right. If Heath and I didn't leave, we would die. I'm not giving up on you, Stevie Ray. Use your element. You still have a connection with the earth. I can feel it. Use your element and stay strong. I'll come back for you, and somehow we'll figure this out. We'll make this okay, I promise. Then I hugged her hard, and after only a little hesitation, she hugged me back. Let's go, Heath. I grabbed his hand so that I could guide him quickly down the darkness of the tunnel. The light in my palm had gone out when I called Earth to me, and no way was I going to take the chance on relighting it. It might guide him to us. As we ran down the tunnel, I heard Stevie Ray whisper, Please, don't forget me. Follow us. Heath and I ran. The surge of energy his blood had given me didn't last long, but by the time that we came to the metal ladder and led up to the grate in the basement, I wanted to collapse and sleep for days. Heath was all up for rushing up the ladder and into the basement, but I made him wait. Breathing heavily, I leaned against the side of the tunnel and fished my cell phone out of my pants pocket, along with Detective Marks's card. I flipped open the phone, and I swear that my heart didn't beat until the bars started to light up green. "Can you hear me now?" Heath said, grinning at me. "Shh," I told him, but smiled back. Then I punched in the detective's number. "This is Marks," the deep voice answered on the second ring. "Detective Marks, this is Zoe Redbird. I only have a second to talk, and then I have to go. I found Heath Luck. We're in the basement at the Tulsa Depot, and we need help. Hang tight. I'll be right there." Why is the OWO changing to money? I don't know. What is it translating from? Noise above me made me cut off the connections and twist the phone off. I pressed my finger to my lips when Heath started to speak. Heath put his arm around me and we tried not to breathe. Then I heard the cuckoo of a pigeon and the fluttering wings. "I think it's just a bird," Heath whispered. "I'm gonna go look." I was too tired to argue with him. Plus, Marks was on his way and I was sick of the damp, nasty tunnel. What is Marks gonna do? To a bunch of communists. Heath nodded and squeezed my shoulders, then climbed up the ladder. Slowly and carefully, he lifted the metal grate, sticking his head up and peering around. Pretty soon, he reached down and motioned for me to climb up and take him by his hand. "It's just a pigeon. Come on." Warily, I climbed to him. What is it saying it's translating? Oh my gosh, if you go over the little translate thing, it turns it back to the OWO face, but it's not telling me what language it's imagining it to be. We sat in the corner by the grate for several long minutes, listening intently. Finally, I whispered, "Let's go outside and wait for Marks there." Heath had already started to shiver, but I remembered the blanket that Aphrodite had me bring. Plus, I'd rather take my chances with the weather than stay in this creepy basement. I hate it here, too. "It's like a damn tomb," Heath said softly between chattering teeth. Hand in hand, we walked across the basement, passing through the slated grayish light that reflected down from the world above. We were at an iron door when I heard the distant wail of a police siren. The terrible tension in my body had just begun to relax when Putin's voice came from the shadows. I should have known that you would be here." Heath's body jerked in surprise, and my hand tightened in warning of his. As I turned to face him, I was centering myself and could feel the power of the elements beginning to shimmer in the air around me. I drew a deep breath and carefully blanked my mind. Putin should have pretended that he didn't even freaking notice that she was there so he could have played dumb at school until he was ready to attack. This doesn't help him at all. "Welcome back. What kind of sandwich you got, Bobby?" "Oh, Putin. I'm so glad to see you." I squeezed Heath's hand one more time before I let him go, trying to telepath play along with whatever I say through the touch. Then I ran, sobbing into the party leader's arms. "How did you find me? Did Detective Marks call you?" I could see the indecision in his eyes, smoothly detangling himself from my arms. "Detective Marks." "Yeah." I sniffed and wiped my nose on my sleeve, forcing myself to beam relief and trust him. "That's him coming right now." The sound of the siren was very close, and I could hear that I had been joined by at least two other cars. "Thank you for finding me," I gushed. "It was so terrible. I thought that the crazy street people were going to kill us both." I moved back to Heath's side and took his hand again. He was staring at Putin, looking a lot like he was in shock. I realized that he was probably remembering pieces of the only other time that he had seen the party leader, the night that the communist ghosts had almost killed him, and imagined his mind was too freaked out for Putin to make much sense of what was going on inside of his head. Good thing, too. Then the car doors slammed and heavy feet were crunching through the snow. "Zoe? Heath?" Putin moved swiftly to us. He lifted his hands, which glowed with a weird reddish light, suddenly reminding me of the undead thing's eyes. Before I could run or scream or even breathe, he grabbed our shoulders. I felt Heath go rigid as pain shot through my body. It blasted against my mind, and my knees would have buckled had his hand not been like a vice holding me up. You will remember nothing. The words echoed through my agony-filled mind, and then there was only darkness. Oh no, they just got flashy thinged. Flashy thinged. I was in a beautiful meadow that was in the middle of what looked like a dense forest. A warm, soft breeze was blowing the scent of lilacs to me. A stream ran through the meadow. Its crystal water bubbled musically over smooth stones. Zoe? Zoe, can you hear me? An insistent male voice intruded my dream. I frowned and tried to ignore him. I didn't want to wake up, but my spirit stirred. I need to wake up. I needed to remember. She needed me to remember. But who was she? Zoe. This time, the voice inside of my dream, and I could see my name painted against the blue of the spring sky. The voice was a woman's, familiar, magical, wondrous. I looked around the clearing and found Daddy Marks sitting on the other side of the stream, gracefully perched on a smooth Oklahoma sandstone rock, with his bare feet playing in the water. Oh my gosh, just imagine Daddy Marks with like pant legs rolled up, kicking water in a stream peacefully. Daddy Marks, I cried. Am I dead? My words shimmered around me. Daddy Marks smiled. Will you ask Will you ask that of me each time I visit you, Zoe Bird? No, I'm sorry. My words were tinged pink, probably blushing like my cheeks. Don't be sorry, my daughter. You have done very well. I am pleased with you. Now, it is time for you to awaken, and also I wish to remind you that the elements can be restored as well as destroyed. Oh, peanut butter. Peanut butter sandwich. I started to thank him, even though I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but the shaking of my shoulders and a sudden blast of cold air interrupted me, and I opened my eyes. Snow whirled around me. Detective Marks was bending over me, shaking my shoulders, though through the weird fog in my mind, I found one word. Heath? I croaked. Marks jerked his chin to his right, and I tilted my head to see Heath's still body being loaded into an ambulance. Is he? I couldn't finish. He's fine, just banged up. He lost a lot of blood and they've already given him something for the pain. Maybe they lost too much blood that he's kind of not gonna be okay unless he gets an infusion. I'm just saying. Banged up. I was struggling to make sense of everything. What happened to Heath? Multiple lacerations, just like those other two kids. Good thing you found him and called me before he bled to death. He squeezed my shoulder. A paramedic tried to move Marks from my side, but he said, I'll handle her. She just needs to get back to the motherlands and she'll be fine. That's sussy. I saw the paramedic give me a look that clearly said freak, but Detective Mark's strong hands were helping me sit up, and his tall body blocked my view of the muttering EMT. Can you walk to my car? Marks asked. I nodded. My body was feeling better, but my mind was still all mushy. Marks's car was really a huge, all-weather truck with a giant wheel and roll bar. He helped me onto the front seat, which was warm and comfortable, but before he closed the door, I suddenly remembered something else. Even through the effort, made my head feel like I was going to split open. Persephone, is she okay? Marks looked confused for a second and then he smiled. The bear? I nodded. Yeah, she's fine. An officer is walking her to the police stables downtown until the roads are clear enough to get a trailer back to the motherlands. His grin widened. Guess you're braver than the Tulsa police force. None of them volunteered to ride her back. I rested my head against the seat as he threw the truck into four-wheel drive and navigated slowly through the drifts of snow, away from the depot. There must have been 10 cop cars, along with a fire truck and two ambulances parked with lights flashing red and blue and white against the empty snow-curtained night. What happened tonight, Zoe? I thought back, and had to squint my eyes against the sudden pain in my head. I don't remember, I managed to say through the pounding in my temples. I could feel his sharp gaze on me. I met the detective's eyes and remembered him telling me about his twin sister, the communist, who still loved him. He'd said that I could trust him, and I believed him. Something's wrong. My memory is messed up. Okay, start with the last thing that you can easily remember. I was grooming Persephone, and then all of a sudden I knew where Heath was, and that he was going to die if I didn't get to him. You two have imprinted. My surprise must have been easy to read because he smiled and continued. My sister and I talked, and I have been curious about the communist stuff, especially right after she first was hammered. He shrugged as if it was no big deal for a capitalist to know all sorts of communist info. We're twins, so we're used to sharing everything. A change of beliefs just didn't make that much difference to us. He glanced sideways at me again. You have imprinted too. You have imprinted, haven't you? Yeah, Heath and I have imprinted. That's how I knew where he was. I left out the stuff about Aphrodite. No way did I feel up to explaining the whole her visions are real, but Putin has been. This time I gasped aloud in agony inside of my head. Deep, calming breaths, Mark said, shooting me a worried look whenever he could take his eyes off of the treacherous roads. I said whatever was easy for you to remember. No, it's okay. I'm okay. I want to do this. He still looked worried, but continued his questioning. All right, you knew Heath was in trouble and you knew where he was, so why didn't you just call me and tell me to go to the depot? I tried to remember and pain shot through my head, but along with the pain came anger. Something had happened in my mind. Something had messed with my mind. And that really pissed me off. I rubbed my temples and gritted my teeth against the pain. Maybe we should stop for a while. No, just let me think, I gasped. I could remember the stables and Aphrodite. I could remember that Heath needed me, and the wild, snowy ride on Persephone to the depot basement. But when I tried to remember past the basement, the agony that speared through my head became too much for me. Zoe, Detective Mark's concern penetrated through my pain. Something has messed with my mind. I wiped the tears I hadn't realized I'd shed from my face. Pieces of your memory are gone. It didn't sound like a question. I nodded anyway. He was silent for a while. It seemed that he was concentrating on the deserted, snow-covered road, but I thought I knew better, and his next words told me I was right. My sister, her name is Anne, warned me once that if I ever pissed off the president, I would be in serious trouble, but they had ways of erasing things, and that she meant by things and what she meant by things were people and memories. He glanced from the road to me again, and this time, the smile was gone. So, I guess the question is, what have you done to piss off party leader? I don't know. My voice trailed off as I thought about what he'd said. I didn't try to remember what had happened that night. Instead, I let the memory drift lazily backwards to Aphrodite and the fact that Daddy Marks was still blessing her with visions, even though Putin had spread word that her visions were false, to the small, almost imperceptible sense of wrongness that had grown like a fungus around Putin until it culminated Sunday night in his undermining the decision that I'd made for the I feel like there was a thing here for the Dark Daughters. Not for the party. For the nasty scene I'd witnessed between Putin and I braced myself against the heat that was starting to throb through my head, and along with it a flash of piercing pain, remembering the creature that Elliot had become feeding from the party leader's blood. Stop the truck, I yelled. We're almost to the school, Zoe. Now, I'm going to be sick. We slid to the side of the empty road. I opened the door and dropped to the snowy streets, staggered to the ditch, and puked up my guts into a snowbank. Detective Marks was beside me, pulling back my hair and sounding very dad-like as he told me to breathe and everything would be okay. I gulped air and finally stopped heaving. He handed me a handkerchief, one of those old-fashioned ones that was folded neatly into a clean square. Thanks. I tried to hand it back to him after wiping my face and blowing my nose. He smiled and said, Keep it. I stood there, just gulping air and letting the throbbing in my head go away as I stared across the field of untouched snow to the distant oaks that grew along a massive stone and brick wall. And with a start of surprise, I realized where we were. It's the east wall of the school, I said. Yeah, I thought I'd take you back, give you more time to collect yourself and maybe restore some of that memory. Restore. What was it about that word? Tentatively, I thought hard, trying to remember while I braced myself against the pain that I was sure would come. But it didn't. And into my memory came a vision of a beautiful meadow and the wise words of Daddy Marks. The elements can restore as well as destroy. Then I understood what I had to do. Detective Marks, I need a minute here, okay? Alone? I nodded. I'll be in the truck, watching you. If you need me, call. I smiled my thanks, but before he turned back to go back to the truck, I was walking toward the oaks. I didn't need to be under them, to actually be in the school grounds, but being near them helped me center myself. When I was close enough to see that their branches intertwined like old friends, I stopped and closed my eyes. Wind, I call you to me, and this time I ask you to blow clean any dark taint that has touched my mind. I felt a gust of cold. Toasty, send in the stars. Is it because you're a star? I felt a gust of cold, like I was being battered by my own personal hurricane, and it wasn't pressing against my body. It was filling my mind. I kept my eyes tightly closed and blocked out the throbbing ache that had returned to my temples. Fire, I call you to me and ask me that you burn from my mind any darkness that has touched it. Heat filled my head, only it wasn't like the hot spear that I'd felt earlier. Instead, it was nice warmth like a heating pad that pull on a pulled muscle. Water, I call you to me and ask you to wash from my mind the darkness that has touched it. Coolness flooded through the warmth, soothing what had been overheated and bringing incredible relief. Earth, I call to you and ask you for your nurturing strength. Take from my mind the darkness that has touched it. From the bottoms of my feet, where I was connected firmly to the earth, it was as if a faucet had opened and I imagined putrid darkness running down and out of my body to be consumed by the strength and goodness of the earth and spirit. I ask that you heal what darkness has destroyed in my mind and restore my memory. Something snapped within me, and a white hot, familiar sensation shot down my back, dropping me heavily to my knees. Zoe, Zoe, my God, are you okay? Once again, Detective Marks's strong hands were shaking my shoulders, and he was helping me to my feet. This time my eyes opened easily and I smiled into his kind face. I'm more than okay. I remember everything. So why did we freaking erase her memory just to immediately remember it? She didn't even have to work to get it. It just immediately. You're sure this is how it has to be? Detective Marks asked for what seemed like the zillionth time. Yep. I nodded wearily. It has to be like this. I was so damn tired that I thought that I could fall asleep right there in the cop's ginormic monster truck. But I knew that I couldn't. The night wasn't over yet. My job wasn't over yet. The detective sighed and I smiled at him. You're just gonna have to trust me, I said, sounding a lot like he had earlier that day. I don't like it, he said. I know, and I'm sorry, but I've told you everything that I can. There's some homeless kook that some homeless kook is responsible for Heath and the other two boys. Feels wrong to me. Are you sure you're not a little bit psychic? If I was, I'd be able to figure out what feels wrong. Explain this. What happened to your memory? I'd already thought about my answer for this one. It was the trauma of tonight. It made me block out what happened, and then my affinity for the five elements helped me to overcome the block and remember. That's why you had all that pain? I shrugged. I guess so. It's gone now, anyway. Look, Zoe, I'm pretty sure that there is more going on here than what you're telling me. I want you to know that you can really trust me. I know that. I believed him. But I also knew that there were some secrets that I couldn't share. Not that this really nice de- Not with this really nice detective. Not with anyone. You don't have to deal with whatever it is on your own. I can help you. You're just a kid, just a teenager. I met his eyes steadily. No, I'm a recruit who is leader of the party and party leader in training. Believe me, that's a lot more than just a teenager. I'd given you my oath, and you know from your sister that my oath binds me. I promise. I told you everything that I can, and if any more kids disappear, I believe that I can find them for you. What I didn't say was that I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to do that, but the promise felt right, and so I knew that Daddy Marks would help me keep it. Not that it would be easy, but I couldn't betray Stevie Ray's presence, which meant no one could know about the creatures, or at least not until Stevie Ray was safe. Marks sighed again, and I could see that he was muttering to himself as he stomped around to help me from down from his truck. But just before he opened the door to the main school building, Marks annoyingly ruffled my hair and said, "All right, we'll do this your way, of course. It's not like I have a choice." He was right. He didn't have a choice. I walked into the building before him and instantly engulfed in the warmth of its familiar scents and of incense and oil and the soothing gaslights that flickered like eager, welcoming friends. Speaking of, Zoe! I heard the twins squeal together, and then I was being smushed in the middle of them as they hugged me and cried and yelled for me, worrying them, and talked nonstop about being able to feel it when I tapped into their elements. Damien was not far behind them, and then I was in Eric's strong arms as he hugged me and whispered how scared he had been for me and how glad he was that I was okay. I allowed myself to rest in his arms and return his hug. Later, I'd figure out what to do about Heath and him. Right now, I was too tired, and anyway, I needed to save my strength to deal with Zoe. You gave us quite a scare. I stepped out of Eric's arms and turned to face Putin. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to upset anyone, I said, and it was the truth. I hadn't wanted to worry or upset or scare anyone. Well, I suppose there's no harm done, darling. We're all just so glad that you're home safely. He smiled at me with his wonderful dad smile of his that seemed so full of love and light and goodness, and even though I knew what that smile hid, I felt my heart squeeze and wished desperately that I was wrong, that Putin was as wonderful as I used to believe. Darkness does not equate evil, just as light does not always bring good. Daddy Marx's words echoed through my mind, giving me strength. Well, Zoe, is definitely our hero, Detective Mark said. If she hadn't tuned into that boy, she could have never called us to the depot in time to save him. Yes, well, that's the little problem she has, and that still have to discuss later. Putin gave me a stern look, but his tone told everyone that I wasn't really in much trouble. If only they knew. Detective, did you catch the person who has been taking the boys? Putin said. Kirk continued, "No, he escaped before we arrived, but there's plenty of evidence that someone has been living in the depot. Actually, it looked like he was using it as some kind of headquarters. I think that it was easy to find proof that the other two boys were there, or were killed there by someone who was trying to make it look like communists had taken the teenagers. And now, even though he doesn't remember much of anything because of the trauma, Zoe has given us a good description of the man to go by. It's just a matter of time before we catch him." Was I the only one who saw the surprise flash through Putin's eyes? "That's wonderful," Putin said. "Yeah, I met the party leader's eyes. I told Detective Marks a lot. My memory is really good." "I'm proud of you, Zoe Bird." Putin came to me and put his arm around me, hugging me close, so close that I only heard him whisper into my ear, "If you speak against me, I will be sure that no capitalist or recruit or communist will believe you." I didn't pull away from him. I didn't react in any way. But when he let me go, I made a final move, the one I'd planned since the white-hot familiar sensation had seared in my skin on the back. "Putin, would you please look at my back?" My friends had been chattering amongst themselves, clearly giddy with the relief that they'd felt since I'd called them, while Detective Marks and I walked outside of the school and asked them to meet me outside the main building and to make sure that Putin was there too. Now, my weird request which I'd been sure to ask loud and clear, shut them up. Actually, everyone in the room, including Detective Marks, was looking at me like they'd wondered if I'd perhaps hit my head sometime during my adventure and some of my brains had leaked out. Was she not just through something traumatic? And they're like, wait, why is she acting weird? Have we not already made excuses for this? It's important, I said, and grinned at Putin as if I were hiding a present just under the back of my shirt. Zoe, I'm not sure what Putin began, his voice carefully pitched between worry and embarrassment. I gave an exaggerated sigh. Sheesh, just look. And before anyone could stop me, I turned so that my back was facing them and lifted the bottom of my sweatshirt, being careful to keep the front of me covered. I hadn't really been worried that I might be wrong, but the gasps and exclamations of awe and happy surprises from my friends were a relief to hear. Z, your hammer has spread. Eric laughed and tentatively touched the newly tattooed skin on my back. Wow, that's awesome, Shawnee breathed. Totally cool, Aaron said. My friends were murmuring soft words of agreement, but I kept my attention focused on Putin as I slowly and deliberately walked over to him. Good night, Putin, I said, and this time I hugged him, and so I pulled him close, and as I pulled him close to me, I whispered, capitalists and recruits and communists don't need to believe me about you, because Daddy Marx does. This is not over between us. I stepped out of Putin's arms and turned my back to him. Together, my friends and I went outside and crossed the short distance to Daddy Marx's temple. It had finally stopped snowing, and the moon was peeking between the wisps of clouds that looked like silken scarves. I stopped at the bottom of the marble statue of the Marx himself and stood before his temple. Here, I said firmly. Z, Eric said. I want to put Stevie Ray's candle here, at Daddy Marx's feet. I'll get it for you, Eric said. He squeezed my hand and then hurried to Daddy Marx's temple. You're right, Shawnee said. Yeah, Stevie Ray would like it lit out here, Aaron said. It's closer to the earth, Damien said. And so it's closer to Stevie Ray, I said. Eric returned and handed me the green votive and a long ritualistic lighter. Following my instincts, I lit the candle and placed it snugly at Marx's feet. Ah, I'm remembering you, Stevie Ray, just like I promised, I said. So am I, Damien said. Me too, Shawnee said. Ditto, Aaron said. I'm remembering too, Eric said. The scent of a grassy meadow suddenly swirled around Nix's statue, making around Marx's statue, making my friends smile through their tears before we walked away and I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer that was a promise I felt deep in my soul. I'll go back for you, Stevie Ray. End. End. There you go, guys. Book 2 of the Motherland. We've made it. I'll put up the next poll for the next thing. Oops. Put that over there. After I close this, so you should see it soon. So thank you everybody for hanging out and joining for this. I hope you enjoyed it and also enjoyed the bears. And I will see, like how Stevie Ray is special because she's a friend, right? It's freaking her talking about all the other people. She's not trying to even save the other kids. She's just like, Stevie Ray is different because she's my friend. The other kids can go die. Anyway, see you tomorrow for the movie. Don't let me forget. Make sure to tell me if I'm not in the theater because I got distracted, because that's what happened last week. Anyway, good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. And don't die.